L to the fifth. What? Bye-bye.
What's up, YouTube? It's Lückeż. So I have a very special video for you this week. First news, it's going to be shorter. I know the last one seemed a little long. I tend to overdo things. We're shooting for 7:31, moving on. Part 2, I have a guest this week on the show. Someone very, very dear to my heart. Someone who provides such an awesome balance to my mania. I can be viewed as manic at times. And so I have a very special guest today. It's a very dear friend of mine, and I'm so excited. I'm also going to include the 7 tidbits section at the end because I love them and because I promised you I would give them to you. So here we go. Video number 4. Let's get it started. Here we are. It's time for the interview section of the show. I'd like to introduce a very, very special guest friend of mine. Everyone, this is Joseph. Joseph, thank you so much for being on the show today. How are you? You know, Lückeż, I'm doing pretty good today. It is a bit cold, which is why I'm still holding this jacket and this hat on. But thank you so much for having me on the show today. You know, it is such an honor to be, I think, actualized. You know, a lot of times I don't think you tell people that I'm here with you basically all the time. Well, of course, you know, I mean, not everyone understands that there's usually different voices inside of our heads that speak at any given time, and not a lot of people, as many of us well know, are willing to admit and accept that these voices inside our head have a really big cause and effect as to how we operate and function as individuals. So I've been told that you have a few questions for me today. Do you want to go ahead and start those questions now? Oh, thank you, Lückeż. Of course, you know, my very first question I have for you today is, what is the fifth dimension that you keep kind of going on and on about, and how does it affect me, like a basic person in everyday life? What is it really going to do for me? Of course, I understand. You know, as I explained in my previous video, the fifth dimension is a place of consciousness where you can look down upon the different sides of yourself in a non-biased, open perspective kind of way. Many of us get caught up in one side of ourselves. You know, we're really OCD or we're really loose, you know, type A, type B. And I think it's really important to accept that, you know, underneath all the exteriors of A and B is who we actually are. We don't really need to label ourselves as a type A or type B person. We can genuinely be both, and we can be open to the experience of both situations. I mean, that sounds nice and everything, you know, the whole, like, split type A, type B personality thing. But, like, you sound a little skitzed out sometimes when you talk about the fifth dimension. You almost sound like it's a big supernatural and spiritual thing. And, I mean, that's nice, but there's things we need to do in everyday life that I feel like, you know, probably should be focused on that more so than being spiritual. You're always, I don't know, just what about money? What about jobs? What about people we interact with? You know what I'm saying, people? I just feel like you're kind of going into this idealistic kind of place, and idealism tends to be squished in today's society, so I'm just a little worried about you. You know, Joseph, that's fully and completely understandable. I totally get how you feel that way. While I do believe there is a necessity in making money and keeping things in a material sense of the world, because we do live in a third-dimensional reality, right? We live in the third dimension. However, you know, if we really want to find true internal happiness that resonates inside of us and resonates out to the external world, I believe it's important to look beyond all the labels and the predetermined, compartmentalized things that society has taught us. Society has taught us to think like them instead of thinking like us. And some of the greatest minds in the world were shunned for being different. You know, Einstein is a great example. Einstein was someone who failed at math. He failed at math by his teachers because he didn't conform to the expectations given to him through a syllabus. He kept saying, no, I believe this and this and this, and then guess what? Years and years later, we find out that all his crazy was actually true. So what are we supposed to... Whoa. Wait a minute. Okay. You're comparing yourself to Einstein. Like, you're not Einstein. You're just Lückeż. And I mean, you just seem a little bit like, you know, delusions of grandeur, and you're kind of like going off into this huge spacey thing about X, Y, Z, and this is spiritual, and we can find peace and abundance and happiness within inside of ourselves. And I mean, that just sounds stupid, to be quite honest. Like, you're gonna be homeless and alone, and oh god, it's just, whew. You know, I understand what you mean, and I'm going to connect it back to the material world. You know, we're constantly told that we're supposed to do, and we have to fit into a mold, and there's a square of, what would you call it, success that has been laid out for us. And I'm not saying to break free of that. I think there was a message of Christ that said we're supposed to be in the world, but not of it. There's an essential game we have to play in order to be successful and to get along with people. But, you know, I just truly believe that when we enter that fifth state of dimension inside of ourselves, we genuinely will bring abundance to us. And we will bring success and happiness to us. I mean, does that kind of make sense about creating it from within and then attracting it instead of looking for it and being without it? We create our own internal magnet of happiness and abundance and fulfillment, and then naturally that magnet will draw things in. Now, we have to remember, magnets in the beginning are very small, and they only have so much power. If it's a teeny tiny magnet, it can only suck so much, right? But as the magnet pulls more and more things to it, that magnet grows, and before you know it, it's this huge, gigantic field of energy that we're carrying with us that starts attracting all sorts of abundance and success to our lives. Joseph, it's been great having you on the show today. I'm going to give you like a little speech at the end, but our time is over now because we're trying to get a short video today. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime. Of course, Lückeż, thank you so much for having me on the show today. I really appreciate that you take the time to listen to me and that you don't judge me for having thoughts that sometimes can view as negative, because I really do genuinely I'm wishing the best for you. I want you to be successful, and I want you to move forward. So again, thank you so much for having me on the show today. All right, guys, it's time for my favorite section of my 5D journey, the 7 small tidbits to help you transition forward into a better consciousness of yourself, dimension change. Number 1, always hear, process, respond. The most important of those 3 is the process. Process before you respond. Otherwise, it's just a reaction. Let's just face it, that's never any good. Respond, don't react. Number 2 is trust your own inner voice. There's a voice deep inside the head. Deep inside. It speaks. Some call it our conscience. Follow it. Number 3, all emotions are valid, and guess what? It's okay to express them. The issue most people run into about emotions and expressing them is that they live too long. Anger comes up, and it stays and stays and stays and stays. Blah. No. Anger. Blah. Moving on. Number 4, happiness is found within. I feel like sometimes I find myself chasing happiness on the outside. You know, nice possessions, good friends, education, pleasure. It comes from within. It's nice being comfortable with things on the outside that make us happy, but ultimately happiness comes from the inside. So it's important that, you know, we look there. Number 5 is that if it feels bad in the moment, stop doing it. I'm not going to explain anymore. Just stop. Just stop. Number 6, only you know your own personal truth. When I find myself seeking truth in other places, and I'm like looking for validation as to what it is that I believe, if I'm looking for validation, then it's not belief, because faith is about not having validation. It's about knowing on the inside, this is best for me and I believe it. Believe, create, achieve. manifest, in case you don't remember from that video that one time. And the last one is a wonderful quote from a very dear woman, Mary Poppins. And it's, well begun is half done. And let me tell you, every single time that I really prepare myself for a project, which, takes time, it takes you like 20% of the project time to do it. Every time I do that and I really adhere to the getting prepared, that last 80% always goes faster. I mean, it's like every single time, it does not matter. Like, well begun is half done. May the 5D world find all of us. L to the 5th.